Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your erstwhile host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Summerslam 2023, August the 5th, 2023. All right, so I was in attendance for this show. I will give the live opinions as we go through the show. Also, I didn't do a SmackDown review, so I'm going to actually have to pepper SmackDown in here at some point. This thing is probably going to be long, I'm just giving you a heads up. We're probably going to be here for a while because we got news and notes. First note, Michael Cole will be taking over as the lead commentator on Monday Night Raw, but Kevin Patrick will still be there. He will just be the third man in the booth. This is basically a shadowing situation where Kevin Patrick was thrown into the deep water. He's no good. Not good. So they're going to put Michael Cole on there to see if he can actually bring Kevin Patrick up to speed. This is probably a bad idea. We probably should just get rid of Kevin Patrick. I don't know why we're, holding his hand through this whole thing, but we're still doing what we're still doing. Michael Cole on Raw, okay, fine. Who cares, really? It doesn't matter that much. Second, it's suggested that Big E will probably not wrestle again due to doctors suggesting that he shouldn't wrestle again. That being said, wrestlers almost always told to stop wrestling, through serious back injuries, serious knee injuries. You're almost always advised to not do it again. Whether they take that advice or not is very, very rare. There have been guys who, of course, been medically retired, like Daniel Bryan and Paige, who have managed to get back into the ring, but it was mostly their passion to do so. I think Big E might be the kind of guy who says, hey, that was pretty nasty, pretty ugly. What more do I have to prove? Nothing. I was the world champion, so might not need to wrestle again. Why test my luck? And it seems like he might get a job as a color commentator, which is fine. That works. But where? On what show? Do we just have a 3-man booth on SmackDown or a 3-man booth on Raw? I mean, I don't know. But Big E's retiring, or, until he's actually retired, I can't give full ideas, but it seems like his in-ring career might actually be over. In which case, okay, it kind of sucks for it to end that way, but the guy can still move. He can still live his life. He can still, participate. He's not in a wheelchair or anything like that. So we're looking at the positives here. If he can retire or work a very limited schedule, that's fine with me. Not the biggest Big E fan, but I'm also not a hater, so I understand. And I fully understand if he just decides to not wrestle anymore because he don't want to, test his neck or anything, which is fine with me. Next, the final thing, Kairi Sane apparently is going to be returning to WWE. She was gone for like a year and a half. She left to get married. She returned to Stardom. She did some stuff there. She became the IWGP Women's Champion before wrestling and losing to Mercedes Moné. And I had lost track of her after that match. I know she seemed to be pretty disappointed in the match, and she didn't look happy afterwards. She didn't actually look happy before it. Very weird vibes I got from Kairi when she returned to Japan. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But she didn't seem thrilled about being back in Japan. Like it seemed like at first maybe she was happy to be back, but then over time it was kind of like, yeah, why did I do this? With Triple H being in complete control now that Vince is gone and not involved with the day-to-day creative, according to Triple H, I think Kairi probably has a better opportunity here. One of her biggest problems in WWE before was injuries, the constant concussions, and she was always out. If we can fix that issue, I think Kairi would be great. The amount of Japanese female wrestlers in WWE it only really highlights the fact that there needs to be more luchadoras. There needs to be more women from Mexico. I have been saying this for at least 2 years. It's nice to have Kairi and Asuka and Io and Meiko Satomura still there. Who knows how many other Japanese women they're probably going to bring in. Or whether, Sarai may come back. I heard that was actually something on the table. But no matter what, there still needs to be more female luchadors, And there's just not enough of them. But I'm cool with Kairi coming back. Kabuki Warriors return. You could probably do something interesting between her and Io on a big stage. And I think it really showcases the hard work of the Japanese female wrestlers that, you know, they still are very sought after in WWE despite the English barrier. And they actually become very successful and are quite over despite the English barrier, that people still enjoy watching them and they're still appreciated by the audience. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to Io winning the title. But I think people generally have that whole, you know, wrestling as a universal language kind of thing. It really kind of showcases when you talk about the Japanese female wrestlers that people typically still appreciate, even though they don't speak the language. All right, let's go into the show. Oh yeah, before I get into the show, they did this whole thing. I don't know if it might have been on the pre-show where they gave championship belts and money to community organizations. One of the community organizations was Detroit Public Schools, and there was quite a few of us that actually booed Detroit Public Schools. I don't know if it actually came through on television, but we booed the shit out of Detroit Public Schools. We also booed the shit out of Philadelphia. When the packages came on to show WrestleMania in Philadelphia, we booed Philadelphia. It wasn't quite as bad as it was for Ohio, which we'll talk about in literally a few minutes, and Chicago, because I went to the GCW show the day before. So it was pretty brutal there too. But Logan Paul defeats Ricochet. I've always said that if it was a match that Logan Paul could win, this would be the one. Ricochet has not been overprotected. He's not Brock Lesnar. He's not Roman. He's nobody special. He does great flips, but completely believable for Logan Paul to beat him. Now, was the match in terms of the live experience was hype. People, they don't like Logan Paul. He got booed out of the building, of course. People were chanting "fuck Ohio" very loudly. I don't know if it came through on TV. When I watched the show back, I didn't hear it. But in the building, there is a very loud "fuck Ohio" chant, especially after he was announced to be in from Cleveland. The previous night at GCW, there was a loud "fuck Chicago" chant because two wrestlers came in from Chicago, and that lasted a while. That was it wasn't like a light "fuck Chicago." It was like "fuck Chicago," like for like half the match, and the match was like 15 minutes of "fuck Chicago." This one was "fuck Ohio," but it was mostly the people behind us. I was in section W, row 21. So it was mostly the people in the seats behind us and some of the people on the sides or whatever chanting "fuck Ohio." But once it caught on, it was a pretty nice chant. I'm not sure if it came through on TV or not. Okay, Logan Paul, of course, very agile. He did a split leg drop, which looked better when Nikita Lyons does it. I don't know why he did it. The Spanish fly spot, interesting. Ricochet did not stick the landing, so it didn't really click like it should have, but it was okay. The Prime being sprinkled on Ricochet was pretty funny. We all got a nice little nice little talk about that. C4. We'll talk about C4 when Bianca Belair comes out, because I think that's probably when it's most appropriate. But I got a lot to say about C4, man. It's trifling. The moonsault spot where Ricochet catches him and then Logan Paul counters that into a DDT was awesome. And that got a great reaction in the building. I think it hurts people that Logan Paul is actually good at this and he's catching on and he actually gets it. You know, he knows how to work the room. He knows how to work the match. His punches actually look good, you know, which is a big problem we're going to talk about in a match later. This guy's punches actually look good. His springboard frog splash looked great, you know. So this was a very solid match. You know, somebody cheated. They gave Logan Paul some brass knuckles and he punched Ricochet in the face and Ricochet loses. Doesn't hurt Ricochet at all. Again, he's not, you know, positioned as a world beater, so it's not that big of a deal. Ultimately, Logan Paul has to beat somebody, for Christ's sake. Apparently, he hopped on a red eye, went straight to his brother's fight in Dallas, where his brother defeated Nate Diaz, which was a joke, I heard. But it's freak show fighting, so of course it did. And but the interesting thing is Logan Paul was there the entire night in his gear. So he literally did not change. He literally flew to Dallas from Detroit. So I guess they WWE had to step in and tell Brock, sorry, you don't get to go first this time. Logan Paul has to go first because he literally has another engagement that he has to be at. While Brock, you're just going home to throw bales of hay around. Did this match live up to expectations? I think it did. We didn't expect it to be Steamboat Savage, 10-star classic, but it was a very good match. Two very athletic guys, clearly defined babyface, clearly defined heel, and the story made sense. And then we have room to continue because Samantha had to announce Logan Paul as the winner, which is what was probably going to embarrass Ricochet. So I'm guessing they're going to run this back. If I have to make a guess, I would guess they're going to run it back with Ricochet probably winning the second match. All right, match 2. Brock Lesnar defeated by Cody Rhodes. And Brock Lesnar, I mean, he is a massive human being. So for the live experience, let me tell you this. I couldn't see shit. Again, Section W, row 21. I couldn't see the entrances at all. I did not see the entrances for this show at all until I watched it back. So when Brock was in the ring, he stood out. Like he's that fucking big. He's a big fucking guy, man. Like him, Roman, Drew, they literally, even if you far away, you can see those dudes. They're fucking big. Like compared to Ricochet, where you like, where's the rest of them? Brock, man. And then when he started doing like the things where he was running the ropes, I was like, oh my God. Like this dude is like, people fight this human being. Like not even like wrestling. I'm talking like legitimately. People got into a UFC cage with this guy. It was freaky. But watching Brock basically launch Cody into orbit several times was pretty funny. It was very good. Cody, super over. I mean, he had people standing on the chairs. Of course, people were singing Kingdom along with Cody. It was tremendous. The Cody reaction was top 5 for sure. Up there with Jey Uso, up there with Roman, up there with Bianca. It was top 5 for sure. And LA Knight. So it was up there, in terms of his reaction. Brock decided to turn the match into an unofficial last man standing match by wrecking Cody, then throwing him outside the ring, trying to force him to stay down and get counted out, only for Cody to keep fighting back. It was a very interesting story they decided to tell there, where, Brock is just beating the tar out of Cody. This is a masterclass of selling and babyface fire, because Cody really sold everything, but his comebacks were so believable. Like when soon as he started throwing punches and stuff, people were like right on top of it. And that's when you really learn that the babyface controls the match, because they control the sympathy. So if the babyface doesn't have any sympathy and they don't have any fire, then the match is basically in the hands of the heel. And the heel's job is to keep the fans down, to beat the babyface up. But if the babyface doesn't have fire and doesn't sell, then it really can make the match terrible. But this match was so good because of Cody's selling and because Brock's physical dominance, and it's so believable. Believability is so underrated in wrestling today. It is one of the most underrated aspects of pro wrestling today, is that the shit looks like a real fight. And it looks like Cody was in over his head in this entire thing. Like he hadn't fought Brock Lesnar twice before, Like he was literally trying to fight somebody he's never fought before, and this guy was beating the shit out of him. So while it elongated the match on an already long show, and it was a long one for sure, it made sense in terms of, Brock's trying to humiliate Cody. He's beating the shit out of him. F5 through the table, F5 on the floor. People are yelling, stop the match. It wasn't a whole chant, but it was like people was yelling, stop the match as Cody was getting his ass beat. And then Cody made the big fiery comeback. Was not a fan of Cody hitting Brock with the stairs and then that being okay. Like right in front of the referee. And the referee was kind of like, what do I do? That's one of the skip to my Lou moments where he just started, traveling, and then was like, oh, I forgot where I am. This ain't AEW, buddy. You follow the fucking rules. You hitting the guy with the goddamn steps in front of the ref. The big comeback, the big win for Cody after 3 crossroads. Very good. Very good match. One of my favorite matches on the show. Absolutely. And the energy throughout the show was, the energy throughout this match, I should say, it was maintained and it was very fun. After the match, Brock takes off his gloves and he actually shakes Cody's hand, pats him on the back, presents him to the crowd. Apparently this was unplanned, the unscripted part of the match. It was just Brock showing respect to Cody. And I guess that's the story that they wanted, that maybe they were telling and nobody else knew it, is that Brock didn't respect Cody and then he had to fight him. And seeing Cody's passion, seeing Cody's fire, seeing Cody's fight actually made Brock respect him, and he endorsed him. So that was excellent, and people popped huge for the handshake because they don't want to really boo Brock. They don't really dislike Brock. Like hating Brock is like hating bears. Like when you on a picnic, you're in the bear's environment. You fucking with the bear at that point. Just being there, it's like you're not supposed to be here. It's like when you go on safari and the lions jump on top of the safari thing. It's like they don't expect you to be there, so you can't really blame them. They're like, hey, what are you doing here? So when you are in a WWE ring and Brock Lesnar decides to, put foot to ass, it's like you had no business here in the first place. So he's like a wild animal. And that's kind of how we've come to expect it when it comes to Brock. There's not going to be too much in the way of storytelling as much as Brock's going to do what Brock does. And Brock's going to Brock very well. And if you survive it, then, good for you. And Cody survived it. But my thing is, what's next for Cody? We don't know. Have no idea what's next for Cody. I think we may have an idea. I'll actually pitch it later near the end. I want to get through this show first. But this match was, again, the energy for the match maintained throughout. People were big for Cody. This ruled. Summerslam Battle Royal. Oh my God. The most annoying match of the night because of the LA Knight fans. Oh my God. These people started before the show even started. It was outside. Yeah. Outside. Yeah. After the show. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Stop trying to force it. It's fine when it's natural. But when you have, drunk idiots just yelling, yeah, it's like you're trying to force the issue. You're trying to force people to chant, yeah. But he got a monster reaction, of course. LA Knight just got a tremendous reaction. It was crazy. The previous night on SmackDown, he had wrestled Sheamus and, botched the top rope jump thing, which I saw, as people were like, oh, this guy's too old to be doing that. He shouldn't be doing this. It was a sloppy match that him and Sheamus had. It wasn't great, by any stretch of the imagination. But it was overbooked because they had all the Battle Royal weirdos outside the ring. And they, of course, got into a fight. And it ended up being a big distraction with the Brawling Brutes and the OC getting into it. And I don't know. I'm not looking forward to the Brawling Brutes and the OC. I really don't. Come on. I love me some Sheamus. And Sheamus is not wrong in his critique of Roman Reigns about how, Roman is super over because they invested a lot of time into him. He was also not wrong in saying that they wasted his momentum after Clash at the Castle. He was not wrong on either count. But I'm not sure if I ever, like, watching Sheamus and AJ Styles, that's fine. I can dig that. A 6-man tag, okay. But when they had the Brawling Brutes versus the Good Brothers, oh my God, I wanted to scratch my eyeballs out. I do not want to watch the Good Brothers at all, ever. So I was thrilled when Lashley and the Street Profits came out there and beat the shit out of all 4 guys. Now, there's a confusion, of course. There's the people who, of course, hate WWE. They're like, why did they do that? What's this about? Why are we cheering these guys beating up everybody? It's like, well, I don't know. But guess what? They destroyed a match nobody cared about. That's good in my book, I didn't care who won this match. So it was great that the Street Profits showed up, beat the shit out of them. The crowd was chanting for Bobby Lashley. Lashley came out there. Everybody's in a suit. The Street Profits are looking super serious all of a sudden. I was 100% in on that. I love that. So knowing, I thought maybe Bob would be in the Battle Royal. I thought maybe the Street Profits would be in the Battle Royal. I think it was smart for them not to be in it because you didn't want to distract from what they were actually going to do here. So we get to the match, the Battle Royal. Omos is the surprise entrant. And people have forgot Omos existed. Even though I keep seeing his name on house shows. But the energy for this match was really high because of LA Knight. And everybody, and a lot of people were into Chad Gable as well for some reason. Chad Gable, Otis, and LA Knight were the three most over guys in this match. Yes, more over than Sheamus. Yes, more over than AJ Styles. Basically because of the shoosh and, thank you. The Chad Gable stuff was really over. And they were actually looking forward to him suplexing Bronson Reed. And people was kind of waiting for it. But it never did come. So that was great. Karrion Kross fucks AJ Styles in this match. Not literally, of course. I would not be celebrating that. But Karrion Kross screwed AJ Styles, pulled him out of the ring. Then yelled at AJ that this thing is over when he says it's over. Which, very, very obsessive. So, LA Knight wins, eliminating Sheamus as the last person. They actually hit the spot that they botched on SmackDown. They actually hit it hit it this time. So, it actually looked better, and it was more interesting. LA Knight winning was a little, I don't know, what would you call it, anticlimactic? Basically because we all knew he was going to win, but what did he win? That was always my thing, like, what did he win? He didn't win anything, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just being negative, but I am kind of over the LA Knight thing already. It's getting very annoying. And this one thing that I don't like is being annoyed. Another thing I don't like, being bored. So the next match, the MMA match, Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. Soon as the video package came on for this match, there was a mad dash to the merchandise booth and to the bathroom. I mean, there was a mad dash. I tried to catch it on live, but it didn't work out. So I ended up just recording how quiet everybody was. There was at least 3 different chants of this is boring because they didn't care about the MMA stipulation. But if we're being honest, I know a lot of people on the internet, they have claimed that, it was the stipulation that was holding them back. It was not the stipulation. It was, they didn't get reactions for their entrances either. So nobody cared about this match in any way. Another problem, I think, is that some people who don't watch mixed martial arts, they don't understand the rules, for starters. Secondly, they had no appreciation for the artistic element that Ronda and Shayna were doing. I can't see shit from where I'm sitting. Even though I got floor seats, I couldn't see anything. So when they were doing a lot of grappling, I couldn't really see. I had to watch it through the screens and everything. Watching it back, this match actually was not that bad. All right. If you are interested in like grappling and the transitions and some stuff like that, this match was actually pretty good. Their wrestling looked believable. They worked some real ring psychology with Shayna Baszler's shoulder and arm. But it was hard because there was no energy for the match, because nobody cared about it. And because it's the wrong audience. The WWE audience is not interested in your worked MMA. They don't care. I have yet to see a WWE audience or AEW audience. I remember they tried it. That's legitimately interested in worked MMA. Like, I don't know why they keep doing this, where we're going to have an MMA match or an octagon fight or whatever. It's like, this shit never works. Most people didn't even know the rules. All right. And when you watch it back, the referee explains the rules, but he's talking, right? If you're in the building, you're far away from the ring. You can't hear them talking in the ring. So I can't hear the referee telling Shayna and Ronda there's no, rope breaks, there's no countouts, there's blah, 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 blah. We can't hear that. So there's people still asking, what's the rules? And I'm like, well, I watch UFC. I know the rules are knockout, tap out. That's the rules. Everything else is, no holds barred. And, but generally speaking, most people just had any idea what the fuck this was supposed to be. They're not interested in the personalities. So even though the grappling and stuff like that was very interesting, it made it a unique match. In terms of a match, it was unique. It worked to the strengths of both women. Unfortunately, WWE audiences are more interested in personalities, not into the work rate grappling of this match. The strikes could have used some work. They weren't the worst in the world, but they could have used some work. And I just, the phony ref stop too, like the spot where Shayna is down and the referee's considering stopping the fight. That kind of felt like it elongated everything. But if you look at this match in terms of the storytelling, it was actually pretty good. Ronda Rousey tries to fist bump Shayna before the match, which is something she never does in MMA, and Shayna just completely disregards her, But it's also came across like a heel program, and I think that also didn't help. When Ronda's unlikable and Shayna's notoriously unlikable, the crowd is kind of like, who do I cheer for? Who do I boo? So they dropped the ball at a lot of different points here. So a lot of people are just running around saying that, oh my God, WWE doesn't know how to book Ronda Rousey. They botched her from the beginning. It's like, look, she's not a convincing babyface at all. They tried that. They tried having her beat everybody by submission. It didn't work. People got bored. They booed. They didn't care. They turned her heel. Her personality still didn't really shine through. They've given her hardcore matches. They've given her singles matches. They've done pretty much most of the stuff that they know works. They tried with Ronda. It just would not come through. She just did not have the charisma. She had the name, and that was pretty much it. But overall, I liked the match. After I watched it on, at home, comfortable, without some kid kicking me in the kneecap over and over again. I'm gonna try not to get into that. I'll give you the full live experience near the end. But I actually liked it, in terms of how different it was. The finish, could have used some work, but it was, the big pop was, of course, when it was over, because it was over, but the crowd didn't care about it. They weren't invested in the story. They weren't invested in the characters. Worked MMA never catches on. There was no clear babyface, no clear heel. There's a lot of problems here. And this was obviously the low point of the night. Everything that came after this was trying to pull us out of this hole, So this is where the crowd actually started to go down. Probably because this match was so long. If this was Ronda's swan song, it's not good. She should probably have one more to go out on top. Not to win, of course, but to just to show the fans that she actually does have something that she could do in WWE. The fifth match, very straightforward. Intercontinental Championship, Drew McIntyre versus Gunther. Gunther wins with the powerbomb. Hard-hitting affair. Phenomenal. Gunther is actually more over than it seems. Like, watching him on TV, you don't hear that much of a reaction for Gunther. But when I was in the building, you could hear people introducing him along with Kaiser. And people were very interested in his matches. They were standing up. They were attentive. They responded to the chops and to some of the bigger moves that he was doing. But I think that's where you realize that a guy like Gunther is going to get a different reaction than a guy like Ricochet, because they work different styles. They have different personalities. They have different gimmicks and different characters. The people still, they appreciate Gunther, but he's not somebody they're going to go crazy for. He's also, because he almost always fights one-on-one with very little outside interference, he's somebody that they don't hate, They look at him as, a force of nature almost. Like, they don't hate him and they don't love him. So they're ambivalent about him, but there's a respect level that's going upwards about him. It's hard to explain, because people were very interested in this match, interested in his offense, but they weren't going crazy. Drew McIntyre. One thing I wish is he would stop doing headbutts. Him and Roman Reigns, stop doing headbutts, because headbutts never look good. The only time a headbutt ever looked good was when Shibata did it, and he ended up in the hospital. Just no more headbutts, please. I hate the headbutt. It sucks. So Drew loses after being overwhelmed by Gunther. He's destroyed with a series of moves. Really good match. One of my favorite matches of the night too. What's next for Drew McIntyre? There was an interview that Drew did where he said he was hesitant to turn heel because of the charity work that he does, and that he just did not want to sort of put himself in a position where he's representing the company and he's a heel at the same time. I think that Triple H will find a way to get this guy to turn heel, because I think he needs it at this point. I think Drew McIntyre losing big pay-per-view matches and just continuing to go on, it's not going to work out. He definitely needs to turn heel. He's a badass, man. But he was a badass babyface when he was beating up Brock, and that was actually working. And then the pandemic happened, and it threw him for a loop. But now he's kind of a smiley babyface, and after history lesson, Drew, I got tired of him. When he started showing up, hey, let's talk about the history of tea and how we can go to England and get spices. Don't everybody love spices? And then he was Sheamus' buddy for a while. I was like, He should have turned heel a long time ago. He should have turned heel at the Clash at the Castle, if I'm being honest. But he definitely needs to turn heel now. Definitely needs to turn. He needs to turn heel immediately. All right. But the heel turn needs to come with success. It doesn't, for me, if you're going to turn somebody babyface, turn them heel, it should come with success. Because a change of, especially if their gimmick is that they can't win the big one or something like that, then by changing and becoming successful, it validates in their brain, and it validates in the brain of the audience that this is what they needed to do to become successful. A good example is Edge. When he became obsessed with the World Heavyweight title in 2003, 2004, he was a babyface. He wanted to fight all the members of Evolution. He wanted to be fair, blah, 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 blah. And then he went crazy. And then he became like the ultimate scumbag. And then as the ultimate scumbag, he became successful. And becoming successful, he became the world champion. So it validated in his brain, this is the kind of stuff I need to do in order to be world champion. So it just had him escalate from that point forward. Him doing more violent stuff, more backstabby stuff. And that's how it took his character to the next level. So Drew McIntyre needs to turn heel, but he also needs a certain level of success with his heel turn, but he needs to turn heel, so he definitely needs it. As far as Gunther is concerned, I'm pretty sure they're going to reintegrate some of the work rate guys like Johnny Gargano and Ciampa and all them. So I think he's got plenty of those guys for him to feud with, so he'll be okay. Match 6, Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Now, this match was good. It was a good match. The problem, I think, is we have 2 work rate matches back to back, and this match probably could have used a stipulation. I think Cody and Brock could have used a stipulation, and this one could have used a stipulation. It needed some spice to it. It came across as being very dry, where they go out there and they wrestle, and a lot of it is the classic indie wrestler, Ring of Honor style, where we're talking about something from 8 years ago, we're talking about something from 10 years ago, and you're supposed to remember that and internalize it, because when Seth Rollins comes out in the same vest that he was wearing when he injured Finn at SummerSlam 7 years ago, how many people remembered that? If it wasn't for, again, I had to watch the show on commentary in order to pick up on it, but the people in the building didn't know that. This kid who keeps kicking me in the goddamn knees as he's running back and forth to the aisle, he doesn't know that. He's probably 13, he's probably 6 when this happened. So he doesn't fucking know. Most people don't know. They don't understand, okay? Even if you laid out the story, they don't understand. They used to Seth Rollins now coming out wearing women's clothes and puffed up jackets and stuff. Now he's coming out in a simple vest, and they don't get it. Got to keep the audience abreast of things. But if you're on television, you did get it because they explained it to you. So Finn Balor has 7 written in his shoulder, 7 years. So I'm okay. That was pretty cool. Now the reactions, of course, Seth Rollins got a massive reaction. People sang the song. You know, they were. I never understood why people don't like the people singing songs. It's like if people use licensed music and they're singing the song, what's the difference? You know, if you go and watch, Mid-South or something like that, people are clapping along and singing along to Another One Bites the Dust, the Junkyard Dog theme song. It wasn't a problem then, because they didn't do it in the 2000s and the 90s. It was like, how are you going to sing along to Bret Hart's theme? I wish people had sung the Shawn Michaels theme while he was in the ring. That'd have been cool. But people are really involved with Seth Rollins. The match itself, again, very dry, very work ready. They did a really good exchange of moves. The headbutts Seth Rollins did in this match, oh my God, they look like shit. Stop with the fucking headbutts, please. No more headbutts. The show was feeling a little long at this point, so the energy was down. But people weren't quiet. Like, I looked on Twitter after the show, and people were saying like, "Oh, it was quiet in the building. They didn't care about this match." That's not true. The people were watching the match. It was very, kind of like Japan. It was different from Logan Paul and Ricochet, because Logan Paul and Ricochet was the first fucking match, right? This is the 6th, so we're talking like 2 hours later, 2.5 hours later. But nobody got up and went to the bathroom or anything like that, for this match. People were attentive. They were singing along. But the match felt long because we didn't buy into any of the finishes until Judgment Day came out there. So for the live experience, I'm sitting there, we're watching the match. Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly. The people behind me are having a very long conversation about how fucked up it is that Rhea Ripley is not on this show, and that Rhea Ripley is not featured on this show, and how it's unfair, and how she deserves to be on the show, and she should at least be. Is she even ringside? I don't even see her ringside. They were very upset that Rhea Ripley was not there. They were very upset Dominic was not there. And then that's when it really occurred to me that Judgment Day has basically become the Dominic and Rhea show, and that there's very little fucks given for Finn Balor or Damian Priest, because there was nobody. I think there might have been a couple of people wearing like the gay Finn Balor shirt, but that was it. There were some people with the Judgment Day shirts, and there was a lot of Rhea Ripley stuff and a lot of Dominic Mysterio stuff, especially on like males. Males really love Rhea Ripley. The whole dominatrix thing with her putting her foot on people's chest at the, that they getting into it. It's become a kink thing, But it became a conversation behind me, and it grew as the conversation, went forward, with people being frustrated that Rhea wasn't there. And then when she came out, the place blew up. On TV, I think it was mostly boos. In my section, it was a lot of cheers, where, they were like, yeah, finally, the people we actually cared about came out here. So the match was fine. It was a good match. It wasn't like the match sucked or anything like that. But it just felt like it was going a little long, and we wanted to get to the point of where we care and where the pinfalls have more meaning, So once the coup de grace spot, for instance, was live, it was huge. It was phenomenal. There at that point, people were wide awake. At that point, people were definitely jumping up and down. They were definitely into it. Before that, they were just kind of watching attentively, but not, actively jumping up and down or chanting or anything like that. Again, not being able to hear wrestlers talking without a mic led to some confusion, because we're trying to figure out what Damian Priest is doing. Like, we're watching Damian Priest try to give Finn Balor the briefcase. And in my mind, I'm thinking Finn Balor asked for it, and then Damian Priest gave it to him. But then when you watch it on screen, you see that Damian Priest is trying to give it to him, and Finn Balor doesn't want it. So if I'd have just did a live review, I would have said, oh yeah, man, Finn Balor basically begging Damian Priest to help him. But then you realize like that's backwards, because later in the match, you see that, well, in that particular spot, Finn Balor says we're sticking to plan A. Plan A is working. He gives the briefcase back to Damian Priest. And then, he tries to hit the coup de grace. It doesn't work. Damian Priest then slides the briefcase into the ring, goes around on the other side. Again, we're looking at it like he's trying to give Finn Balor the briefcase. And then when Finn Balor crawls over to the briefcase, we're thinking, yeah, he's definitely trying to say, leave the briefcase here, I'll get it. But what ends up happening, as soon as he touches the briefcase, he gets stomped on it. So Finn Balor loses again. So he's in the Drew McIntyre position of he's just going to continuously lose big matches. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it seemed Damian Priest, from his stale face in this situation, he's upset that Finn Balor once again failed to win the title. But I'm guessing that what we're doing here is that Finn Balor was trying to get rid of the briefcase, and he was going to push it out of the ring, and then he got stomped. Or was it that plan A, which was coup de grace, ended up failing, and this was plan B, is that he was going to finally hit him with the briefcase. It was a lot of confusion there, but at least there was clear-cut babyface and heel. People were firmly behind Seth Rollins. People firmly against Seth Rollins losing. People disliked Dominic Mysterio, even though he got a big pop when he came out. It eventually became boos. Rhea got a big pop when she came out. Eventually it became boos. Damian Priest, a little middling, I guess you could say. But there was a lot of intrigue once the Judgment Day got involved as a collective. Before that, there was a lot of quiet, attentive watching. But it wasn't that damn quiet. It wasn't like people didn't care about it. So they left you with the question of whether Damian Priest was trying to help Finn Balor, or was he trying to distract Finn Balor? Which direction are we going in? And it's hard to say, because it came across as being unclear. Even after watching it, it was still relatively unclear what Damian Priest was trying to do by leaving the briefcase there for Finn Balor to get. But it seemed like it's a continuance from the previous conversation where he was trying to help Finn Balor, and Finn Balor didn't really want to accept the help. But Finn Balor once again loses a big match where I'm guessing he's probably going to get kicked out of Judgment Day. And to me, that seems like that's the direction that we're going in, is that Finn Balor's holding everybody back with his obsessions and all this kind of stuff. It makes more sense to kick him out than it would to kick out Damian Priest. But it's clear that they're on a collision course. Like, that's pretty clear. The problem that we have here is, and this is actually a good booking problem, is that Damian Priest is eventually going to be the champion, I believe. Or he's going to get fucked out of this thing by Finn Balor, one or the other. But you also have Drew McIntyre there, who probably should be wrestling Seth Rollins in the future, even though he lost to Gunther. I'm going to imagine a heel turn would push him to being a top contender for the title. But you still have that palace intrigue with the Judgment Day. So it's an interesting scenario that you have here, where you have, Damian Priest, who probably feels now that you've had 2 or 3 chances, Finn. You can't do it. It's my turn now. And Finn's like, no, it's got to be me. And they're going to have that collision course, and Rhea and Dominic are going to be stuck in the middle. But then you're going to have Seth Rollins still going to be there as a champion, but then some new contender is going to come in, whether it's Bronson Reed or Drew McIntyre or something like that. There was a lot of people who was complaining about Seth Rollins winning. They think he's been champion too long, or they don't like him. They don't like his character. They don't like his gimmick. I think somebody had a really good point. I forget who it was. That they already went through the effort of creating another world title just for Seth Rollins. To have him lose it so soon would kind of defeat the purpose. But at the same time, the 7-year odyssey of Finn Balor not being able to win is kind of heartbreaking. But that's really good for his character because, again, like I said before, he was not able to succeed as an obsessed heel. He's going to have to learn to let it go and not be so obsessive about being a champion, not being so vicious about it. And then maybe it'll come to him at that point, you know, when he goes back to being a babyface. And I think Finn Balor is a really good babyface. Like, he's a good heel, but he's a really, really good babyface, you know, because he has smaller stature. So that really helps him. The 7-year odyssey continues. Just because he doesn't win the title here doesn't mean he can't come back later on and win the title. So there's people who are like, it'll never happen again. You know, it's over now. That's just typical, you know, cynical fandom. I don't know. We don't know what's in the future. I know that this story made sense in terms of when you are obsessed about something, it does change who you are, and it does, you know, rot your brain to be obsessive and vengeful, and it doesn't really work out for you in the end. You know, they say that one that pursues vengeance ends up with 2 victims. And you can look at it in this situation, and that's what's going on with Finn Balor, is that he's so obsessed with this title that he's alienating his friends, on top of the fact that he's losing, you know. And that's something that we could definitely explore, and you could take time with that. Wrestling fans are a little too they want the microwave a little too much. You know, we could take our time here. Finn Balor, as far as I know, is nowhere near retiring, so there's no need to get too upset about it. All right, good match in the building, better on the broadcast. 7th match, the Women's WWE Championship match. Bianca Belair defeats Charlotte Flair and Asuka. So, Bianca Belair got a monster reaction in the building. There were grown women cosplaying Bianca Belair. And I'm not talking like, you know, nerdy chicks that you might see at a Comic Con. I'm talking like aunties are there with the braid and everything, swinging it in the air. It was fun. All right. It was great. Charlotte had a really good entrance. Asuka got a big reaction too. The people love Asuka. Again, the language barrier isn't really in the way when it comes to Asuka right now. So Bianca Belair comes out drinking a C4. Well, she's sipping a C4, which probably wasn't even open. Outside the arena, they were giving out free samples of C4. Now, they did it 2 different times. One, they gave you this little cup of C4. And that shit tastes like Murder, Death, Kill dipped in Mountain Dew. It's awful. All right. C4 is some of the worst shit I've ever put in my mouth. All right. It's god fucking awful. It's so unbearingly, unyieldingly sweet. I sipped it like 2 or 3 times. I put that shit. I didn't even pour it out. I just put the cup down and walked away from it. All right. That shit might as well have been on fire. That's how I acted to that. That stuff is nasty, right? It's just like lighter fluid with like carbonated lighter fluid. It's just not good, man. You know, why would you drink? And it makes your mouth dry instantly. Like you drink, I took 2 sips of a really small cup and my mouth was like dirt fucking dry. I'm like, it's like I ate like a whole pound of peanuts. It was crazy. Ugh, that shit's so disgusting. C4 is some of the worst shit. And I don't like energy drinks, period. It's terrible stuff. They were giving away free C4 after the show because they knew everybody was tired. So they were giving it away. And I saw people walk away with 3 or 4 cans of that shit. And I'm like, man, what are you going to do? Start your car with it? You're going to go home and clean your carburetor with this shit? This shit can probably clean a muffler. I'm not drinking that. That stuff's disgusting. What the fuck is wrong with WWE? And the product placement is terrible. It's during her entrance. You know, like, it's the one person who has to have a entrance that is, you know, personally sponsored. Like, but of course, I didn't see it until I watched the broadcast anyway. On SmackDown, they did vignettes for these 3. Charlotte's vignette featured her on a yacht drinking champagne, and saying that winning is in her blood, like all of the championships. She's the Iron Woman of this division. She's got Asuka's number, and she's the wall or the mountain that Bianca has yet to climb. And then there was the one for Asuka, which shows her training and doing some really good strikes and stuff. And she's talking about how the triple threat match is stupid and unfair, and that she's already beat Charlotte, she's already beat Bianca, but she's not worried because she has a plan. And her plan was to, of course, spit mist on people. The third one was Bianca Belair, saying that for 419 days the EST was unstoppable until Asuka decided to blind her. But she doesn't make excuses. She just gets back to work. And then it shows her training with the ropes and lifting and stuff like this. So all three of these vignettes were fantastic and really showcases the characters that are involved here. Bianca's character is very much work ethic, busting her ass. And Asuka is very much the lethal striker. And, Charlotte doesn't need to really do too much working out. Her gimmick is that, she's naturally good at this. She's naturally gifted. So she can lay on her yacht and drink champagne, and that'll be fine, for her vignette. But her yacht was amazing. The rented yacht that they had here, it was tremendous. Now for the match, was good. It was good. There was a lot of really good chants and stuff, but you really couldn't hear them through the TV. There was a lot of EST, a lot of people into Asuka's entrance and into Asuka and her match. So the match was, now at this point we had been in the building 3 hours already. So weariness is starting to kick in, but it was another one of those attentive, but not going crazy kind of matches. And plus you're waiting for big things to happen, believable finishes, because the characters involved, they're not going to lose to stupid stuff. So you're waiting for a certain events to occur to make it seem like, okay, now we can, wake up. But the match itself was fun. I liked particularly the Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair stuff, like really good exchanges and teasers for their eventual solo match that's going to be coming, where they're both doing a lot of gymnastics, a lot of cartwheels and, handstands and stuff like this. And didn't really notice how much both of them do it until they both started doing it, So because Bianca was so over in the crowd, when she did the thing with the stairs, that was actually very well received. People actually believed it, especially since she instantly started crying. It was kind of silly when I watched it on the broadcast, but when you're in the building and it happens, like as soon as she hit the stairs, people started standing up. Like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on here? And she's rolling around on the floor because she's like, oh. But on the broadcast, she like instantly starts weeping. But in the building, I couldn't hear that. We could hear her making noise, but we couldn't hear like what noise she was making. So people were legitimately concerned. And then they continued the match without her, and she's being carried out. Of course, she got the big return cheer and all this kind of stuff, leading to her big comeback. She tries to do the KOD on Charlotte. Charlotte, counters it, gets her in the lock, the figure eight. Asuka gets back into the ring, spits in Charlotte's face. Then she tries to kick Bianca in the head. Instead, gets put in a small package. 1, 2, 3. Bianca Belair wins. The roof comes off the building. It was tremendous. It was great. People were legitimately excited that Bianca won. And then they went from being up to being up even more when Io Sky's music started to play. So, Io Sky, very interesting situation with her, considering they booked her to lose to Zelina Vega on SmackDown. Now, they booked her to lose to Zelina Vega by doing, the distraction shit. I hated this. SmackDown was not that great to me anyway. But they went through the whole Grayson Waller effect thing where, Bayley is, interrupting Io and she's speaking on Io's behalf, saying that, Io is, is going to focus on her match with Zelina Vega. We're not going to talk about Money in the Bank. And she's not going to give away any strategy. But then Shotzi started to haunt Bayley with the laugh. And then we found out it's a joke that Grayson Waller pulled. And then it's not a joke the second time. And a tank comes out, but then it's Zelina in the tank, and Shotzi is behind Bayley with a buzzsaw, apparently, like the sound effect that they used for this thing. That couldn't have been a real pair of clippers. Like it was really like they were using a chainsaw sound effect. So she ends up chasing Bayley around with the clippers, trying to shave her head. And this, of course, distracts Io, and she ends up losing to Zelina Vega, which is the typical, hey, you're Money in the Bank. Here, come take all these losses real quick so that we can go ahead and put you over at some point, and you'll have people to wrestle in the future. It's stupid. I wish they wouldn't do that. I really wish they wouldn't do that, but they insist. They insist on booking people that way. I have no idea why. It's dumb. It's dumb and a half, but it is what it is. Anyway, Shotzi looks weird with no hair. I thought it would have been creepier. Like they probably would have did more with like her makeup and stuff like that. But having her just trying to maniacally shave Bayley's head is funny, especially since Bayley does a really good job of selling it. As like I said, I think I said this before. I don't know if I did. If I am, I'm going to say it now. She reminds me a lot of Chris Jericho. She really throws herself into everything. She's such a versatile, dependable, member of the roster that Bayley is making this thing work. Because Shotzi does not look that credible. She also doesn't look that great. And you know that if you've seen a Shotzi match, it's okay at the best. So we're really going to have Auntie Pam put in the work to carry Shotzi. But Io's match with Zelina was very short, and of course it was plagued by the Billy, help me! Where you go, Billy? Run away! Like no, you don't need Bayley. But Bayley did help in this instance when she ran down to the ring and she belted a couple of people with the briefcase. She hit Charlotte with the briefcase, hit Asuka with it. That keeps them from interfering. She gets in the ring, tries to hit Bianca with it. Bianca decks Bayley, and Bayley ends up dropping the briefcase. Io hits Bianca in the knee with the briefcase first, then pops her in the head with the briefcase. Then she does the big moonsault. 1, 2, 3. Io Sky is the women's world champion. The crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." They're popping. They're going crazy. And there's a lot of respect for Io. And I think they're kind of dropping the ball with her being a heel right now. I think there's a lot of momentum behind her being a babyface. But now she's being positioned as being against Bianca Belair, who is, still one of the most marketable and gets the best reactions of a female wrestler on the roster. So that's going to be interesting. But you got Michael Cole on commentary saying, "From the world of stardom to the top of the world." And in her celebratory tweet, Io kind of tells the story of this situation. She says, wanting to become the best in the world, she threw away the best in Japan position she had at the time and flew to America. I crossed the sea thinking that I was mentally and physically stronger than anyone else, but the wall in the world was so high that I was knocked down in an instant by such arrogance. I tried to say, or rather said, I can't do it anymore. But each time I remembered the faces of everyone who cheered me on and managed to endure it. I cling desperately and build up little by little, and in a foreign land, I finally reached number one in the world today. Being number one in the world was my dream, but it is definitely thanks to everyone that I was able to make it come true. Everyone in Japan, everyone in America, everyone in the world, thank you so much. This girl should be a babyface. Like, this is very weird that she went and tweeted that as a heel, as a heel world champion. She went and tweeted out like, "Hey, I was thinking about giving up, but I pushed through it. I persevered." So there's definitely money on the table for Io being a babyface. I think they should go in that direction, and I seems like that's where they're going to go anyway. Where Io as a separate entity here. Now, Asuka's not done. Of course, she got pinned, but her and Io are definitely going to do some dancing. And I definitely see Io and Charlotte doing more dancing too, even though they had a match on SmackDown already. So Io's got some opponents lined up already. It ought to be very interesting. They're continuing the Bianca Belair story where she's going to end up like Bret Hart, where she's going to bitch and complain and whine, and then eventually the fans are going to turn on her. That seemed to be the direction they're going to go in, is they're going to end up turning her slowly but surely via the Bret Hart method of she has a sort of entitlement, or something needs to be done about all these cheaters and nobody's going to do anything, so it's got to be me. The women's Money in the Bank maintains its 100% rating. So If you're a women's Money in the Bank winner, you're guaranteed to win the title. That's great. I'm pretty sure when it comes to EO, they're probably gonna have a really good idea of what to do with her and how to present her. They did it with Asuka, with the vignettes and the subtitles and stuff like that. So they're gonna do the same thing with EO, and it ought to be fine. You know, EO is tremendous, so this ought to be great. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for: Tribal Combat main event, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns. Oh my goodness. SmackDown. Let's start with SmackDown. Paul Heyman came out and said that this is not what Roman wanted, and that anything that happens in Tribal Combat you can blame on Jey. You know, what happened to Jimmy you can blame on Jey. And then he threw to the Tribal Combat vignette, which was, one of the greatest vignettes they ever put together. He talked about the sacred beads, the Ulafala, how it represents the High Chief. Rikishi was in it. The Wild Samoans was in it. You know, it had the AI versions of Yokozuna and Umaga, and Rock, Rousey, and Roman. You know, it was tremendous. It gave me chills. You know, it was fantastic how they put this thing together. You know, I was wondering why they decided to use AI versions of like Yoko and Umaga and all that kind of stuff. But it did make them seem more savage and vicious as cartoons than it would have if they were like used real pictures of them. And it was also a nice touch that they put Rousey in there. So that was also very nice. But they tell you the story of the Ulafala, what that stuff means, and that's what they're fighting for. So now you've taken what they're fighting for. They're not just fighting for something material. They're also fighting for something spiritual. And then Jey Uso interrupts this, says he's going to light Roman up with the sticks. He's going to light him up with the chair. He's going to put him through a table. And he's going to bring this passion, this spirit, the spirit of his ancestors, his spirit of his family. He's bringing his culture. He's bringing everything to the ring. And he cut a really passionate promo, a really good one, and then says that he's going to handle Roman tonight, but he's got to handle his little brother tonight or tomorrow night. And then he told Solo, when Solo came out there, then he tries to talk very little sense into Solo. Starts telling Solo that he's being manipulated by Roman. He's being manipulated by Paul. Paul is giving the whispers in his ear. He's giving them the same whispers that he gave to Jey. You know, he says he's a puppet. He's being controlled. So then Paul goes to talk again, and Solo kind of looks at Paul, and Paul tries to whisper to him, blah, 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 blah. Jey kicks Solo. And from there, they have, a little bit of a talk between Jey and Paul, where he says he's going to tell Roman he's going to see him tomorrow, but he's going to get Solo tonight. And I can't believe they gave away Solo Sikoa versus Jey Uso on television. I can't believe they gave it away. I was stunned by the fact that they did Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa on television and gave away a finish with the Uso splash. Jey Uso defeats Solo Sikoa. I was definitely surprised that they did that, because it seemed like it could have been a big pay-per-view match that they could have. Again, it's always been of this storyline, and I know a lot of people have a lot of criticisms of it. They have done everything they could to make every interaction between these guys feel special. But then for some odd reason, the Solo Sikoa stuff, they're dropping the ball on it. Jey Uso is in a unique situation when it comes to Solo Sikoa. That is his little brother. We should have had something that was more special, that was more emotional in this match. Not just, Jey needs a tune-up match for Roman, so it's going to be Solo. That's stupid. And that denigrates Solo. And then for Solo to lose. Look, he had to lose if he was going to wrestle Jey. And Jey's going to wrestle Roman. He had to lose. But you didn't need to put him in this position. So I didn't understand this. I didn't like it. The match was okay. I definitely think they could have done better. I'm just shocked that they don't see Solo Sikoa as a person capable of carrying emotional weight in this story, which I think has denigrated him quite a bit. But to get to the actual main event match between Roman and Jey. Now, Jey got a huge reaction in the building. I mean, we singing the theme song. We were going ape. Like, we were just really getting it in when Jey Uso came out there. It was great. It was like the show had started all over again at this point. So Jay comes out there. The place is rocking. We're singing the Uso theme. Roman comes out there. Roman gets, of course, largely positive reaction. Which is like, it's one of those things where, the internet hates Roman Reigns. They hate him so much. But the people in the buildings love Roman. I mean, every other shirt, including the one I wore, I actually bought wrestling shirts this time. I bought a Uso shirt. So I also bought a program. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the people in the buildings love Roman. And the people in the buildings, outside of maybe the formula, they're not really ready for Roman to lose. So as the match starts, of course, they're doing a lot of the walk and talk, which is what Roman's thing. And he's trying to explain to Jay, if you win this, I'll give this to you. I'll hand this to you. Not the referee, not Paul. I will give it to you. But we're in a section, we can't hear this, So as the match starts, we start with Roman, bullying Jay, pushing Jay around, which is, similar to their previous matches. Jay showing a little bits of fire, but being overwhelmed by Roman and his strength. A lot of people are tired of the Roman Reigns match, the formula, where basically he works like Abdullah the Butcher, where he does a walk-in brawl, where he basically hits you a couple of times, then he walks around. Hits you a couple of times, walks around. And they're like, oh, I can't stand it. It's like, when the match is too long and the night is long, like this show is, then yeah, it becomes a problem. But generally speaking, I'm okay with it because it's a similar match formula to Brock Lesnar, but Brock does bigger, high impact moves. He'll do a suplex or whatever, and then he'll force you to sell and come back. Roman does basically more basic offense, punches, kicks, punches in the corner or something like that. And I do agree that the show was so long that this match being long didn't help matters, but it did help because the crowd had time to relax and chill and just kind of, absorb everything. The entrances are so hot. This is I think a WWE phenomenon where the entrances are so hot, you need to come down from them. So because there was so much high energy towards Jey Uso's entrance and a lot of high energy for Roman Reigns' entrance, you have to bring it down. So Roman working slowly allows you to settle in and actually start paying attention. And then he gets into his Abdullah the Butcher, walk-in brawl, his Bruiser Brody walk-in brawl. Now, as usual, when it comes to the Roman Reigns match, the formula, which is the similar formula to Brock Lesnar, where the babyface is going to be overwhelmed physically, and it's going to be Roman is dominant. He's walking and talking, hitting you with a couple of moves here and there. Some of them big, some of them not so big. Pushing, shoving, bullying. It's up to the babyface to have such fire to fight back. And Jey Uso has that. And when he did have that, we were on top of it. So while it seemed like it was quiet, as soon as Jey, boom, we're back up. As soon as Jey starts laying stuff in, we're back up. We couldn't hear Paul basically begging Jey not to hit Roman with the chair or not to use the table. He's your tribal chief. He's your cousin. He loves you. Well, we can't hear any of that. So it just seemed like the match is moving at a snail's pace and nothing's going on. But if you watch it at the broadcast, you see that there is storyline stuff going on. But you can hear it. And you can go through it a little bit better. So in the building, we didn't really know what was going on at this point. They set up a bunch of tables. They do the Samoan drop through the table spot, which, of course, now Jey has done everything he said he was going to do. He brought his fire to the table. He brought his culture to the table. He brought his passion to the table, the spirit of his ancestors. He put Roman through a table with the Samoan drop. And everything's looking like, all right, it's about to be great. And then, of course, the formula of Roman Reigns match continues when Solo Sikoa comes out there. It's 2-on-1 for a while. Then there's some miscommunication between Roman and Solo. Solo gets speared by Roman. Jey, starts to fight back. Roman and Solo starts to argue. Jey spears Roman through the barricade. He handles Solo Sikoa, and he looks like he's about to pin Roman with the big Uso splash. And then Jimmy Uso pulls Roman out of the ring. Pulls Jay out of the ring. At this point, the air leaves the building. And people are like, fuck no. No. Nobody wants to see the Usos break up. Nobody wants to see the Usos fight. But here it is. Now Jimmy kicks Jay in the head. It didn't get the reaction that it should have gotten because people were so upset that another Roman Reigns match was ending with another surprise run-in. Jay is thrown into the ring, speared through a table and Roman wins. So people were definitely pissed about the finish. Rightfully so. It was an opportunity for Roman to go ahead and win this match clean, and I think it would have been believable. At the same time, though, I think we talked about this. Do you really want to fuck Jay by having him lose clean to Roman? Because then he loses something if he loses clean. But here, it seemed like he had Roman beat, but Roman escaped once again, this time through treachery of Jimmy Uso. Now, I gotta tell you, I didn't care for this match that much. It was okay. I was certainly expecting more. But I felt like the night was so long, and then this match got long. It was like if they'd have done the exact same thing and yet done it in a more compact amount of time, it would have been better received, I think. But there was a lot of people who were disappointed in the Jimmy turn, not just because they don't like it, but because it's one more time that Roman has got away with the match because of somebody's interference. And this time it didn't seem like, it was a plan by Roman. It seemed like it was Jimmy just doing his own thing. So Jay loses. He's in excruciating, emotional pain after the match. Not even physical pain, just emotional pain. Well, I understand why it was so negatively received. And that's just, from being in the building. I can tell you this, though. There's a lot of people who, of course, hate the Bloodline story, hate Roman Reigns, and they try to use this as an example of the story going too long. I think that if you... clearly, they planted the seeds for Jimmy's heel turn weeks ago. So, they probably planted it 2 years ago, if we're being honest. With Jimmy saying he's nobody's bitch. That includes Jay. Like, Jay's running around here talking about he's going to be the chief. He's telling Jimmy whether he's going to be in the bloodline or not. There's stuff there, heat between the Usos that was planted way back when this story began. So, yes, you could see this coming. Yes, it was the natural continuance of the angle. But it just feels like I don't think anybody really wants to see the Usos fight. And I mentioned this, I believe, during my prediction show. I don't think anybody wants to see the Usos fight. Like brother versus brother matches are hit and miss. You have Brett and Owen, you have Dustin and Cody, but then you have, Matt and Jeff. And I don't think Matt and Jeff ever had a good match against each other. And you got the Bella twins, they're sisters, and their match was terrible. They're terrible anyway, but, and then you had Jay Russell Solo the day before, and it wasn't, up to par. It was just okay. So, and then you're saying to yourself, at this point, they said Jimmy was out indefinitely. So we don't know whether he can even wrestle or not. And I think that's where we're going to end up elongating this thing. Because do they wrestle each other immediately? Or how do we take our time and build to the Jimmy versus Jay match at WrestleMania? But there's clearly plenty of other things they could do. Because they're doing stories with Roman and Solo are having problems. They've been having problems for a little while now. You could have a triple threat match between Jay, Solo, and Roman. You could also do Jay, Jimmy, Roman, and Solo in a fatal four-way. So you've got some stuff that you can do here that continues the bloodline angle for them all fighting for this same thing. And it can be very interesting. I tried to take into account how other people might feel about the storyline that, they should have just had Drew beat him. And it's like, well, of course, if Drew would have beat him, then you wouldn't have got to the Sami Zayn stuff, and then you wouldn't be where you are now. Part of the reason why you care so much and you're so invested is because Roman keeps winning. You know, if Roman loses, then you've taken a hell of a lot of the heat out of the storyline, which is part of it is that he's the champion. He's got the title tied up in this thing. And now we've gone from one single star to 4. You know, over the course of the 2 or 3 years this storyline's been going on, everybody has developed. So you can't say, well, then look at the people who, after they get done with Roman, only Cody's been able to maintain his heat. You know, Drew McIntyre fell off a cliff. You know, Sami Zayn fell off a cliff. And for starters, let's back up. Cody should have probably won the title. I can't really complain with you there. But Sami Zayn, come on, get the fuck out of here. You know, who would have bought Sami Zayn as being the guy who beats Roman Reigns? It's just not, that's not the story. It doesn't work. You know, Drew McIntyre could have beat Roman and Cody could have beat Roman. But then how do you explain how the bloodline is so ineffective that they can't stop one guy? It's like, okay, they can stop one guy with all of the weapons that they have at their disposal. They can stop one guy. It shouldn't be a big of a problem. If anything, the complaint should have been is that the baby faces didn't have backup, that there weren't other people trying to help them win. Similar to when Mankind was doing battle with the corporation, you know, he had to have people stand up behind him. You know, it had to be like D-Generation X and then a surprise from Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that's how you get to that point. Considering WWE has dropped that element of the story, where when Sami Zayn went to wrestle Roman, it was just Sami Zayn. Cody didn't come out there with him. Cody didn't run out there and try to help him. Nobody else ran out there and tried to help him. That's the element of the story that's missing. You know, when they had the WrestleMania match, they actually did do that. They had, you know, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn run out there to help Cody, and then it wasn't enough. But the point of this whole thing is that when Roman is by himself, that's when he's going to lose. And the whole point of this thing is that family is stronger together. That's kind of the entire crux of this thing. Is that it's not about one person. It should be about the family, the group, or whatever. But in terms of Roman and making it about himself, he's going to end up having to learn that he can't do it by himself. He can't carry it by himself. He needs the Usos. He needs Solo. He needs Paul. You know, and that's the story. It's always been about family, you know, and the family angle is very, very, very important to this thing. The title is not as important, but it adds an element of legitimacy to the story that Roman is the greatest. He's, you know, the tribal chief. He's taking care of everybody. And how he does that is through the title, being the champion, being the main event, being the top guy. That actually adds material elements to his storyline. So yes, he needs to be the champion. I know that you have your favorites and you would have preferred your favorite to win. Oh my God, I wish Cesaro would have beaten him. It's like you're an idiot and a mark. If you're not understanding that the money is, I mean, the money 100% is in Roman defending the title, not in Roman losing it and Cody defending it. Not yet anyway, you know? And once this streak of, you know, sellouts and all this kind of stuff starts to diminish, once they take the title off of Roman, then it's going to be, well, they don't invest time in anybody else. It's like, well, let them do what the fuck they're doing. Play with the hot hand. The hot hand right now is Roman and the Usos. Play with the hot hand. Do what you need to do with them. Milk that thing as long as you possibly can. But you should mix it up, of course. The formula shouldn't be Roman walks and brawls for 40 minutes and then, surprise, one of the Usos or somebody pops up and, you know, cost the guy the match. I mean, that's becoming a little old, that part. But for the most part, I don't think there's enough people tired of Roman being the champion. Ratings, gates, merchandise, everything is going up. I think objectively the people who are complaining are people who don't like Roman anyway, or people who don't like WWE anyway. And that's just kind of how they feel in this storyline. Paul Heyman said in the press conference, that they're in the third inning. And I said to myself, how many innings are in a baseball game? Because if this is the third inning, that means that there's what, 6 more? Oh my God, how much longer is this story going to be? I get it that we're probably going to end up having a bloodline triple threat. Then maybe a bloodline fatal 4-way. And then maybe something else. But I would think that Roman defending the title against only members of the bloodline in this part of his storyline is a little interesting. That nobody else can get in. They've cocooned themselves into this space where it's only them now. So, okay. It doesn't really help the rest of the show. And I think I've said that before. As it pretty much, they're going to beat everybody else and then end up losing only to each other. But it's elevating guys. Roman's not going to be here forever. So you need to elevate other people. Solo has looked really strong. He needs more, he needs to be taken seriously. So he needs some singles wins and all that kind of stuff. I know he was booked as being an impossible world beater not too long ago. But now he's just been, bump buddy for Jey Uso. He's been getting bullied. But he definitely needs a little bit more credence. And Jimmy, as a solo act, needs some credence. And so we're going to get there with them. I want to see how things are going to play out first before I continue. But the idea of just passing the belt around, I don't like that idea. I think it's stupid, Oh, I should have dropped it to Drew McIntyre. You should have dropped it to Sami Zayn. Okay, are we going to live in Montreal? Because he got a good reaction in Montreal, we're supposed to just be like, okay, now he gets to be the champion. Even when Mankind eventually won the title, he wasn't champion very long. But everybody hates when Vince Russo passed the belt around, but they like that. That doesn't make sense. So we're in a position where Roman is a strong champion. But he's not really a strong champion. He's sort of weak. But he's vulnerable. And he's becoming more vulnerable as time goes on. And eventually, he's going to be vulnerable enough to get beat. And that's when everybody's going to be extremely happy. It's probably going to be WrestleMania 40. Everybody's going to be happy about it. And we're going to call it a day. But until then, we've got the Usos. I'm not a big fan of the Usos turning on each other. I don't really like it. I think the match was too long, especially since the show was so long. So I think the match was weak. It wasn't as good as the other matches they've had against each other. But it was solid. So the entire show was fine. The live experience, because of the seats, we couldn't really see. I could see the ring, but we were so far away from the ring that we couldn't hear anything. And we could only really see if people were jumping off the top rope. If they did any type of grappling maneuvers or stuff like that, we really couldn't see it. There was tons of people in the aisle, constantly people in the aisle, taking pictures. And there was a little kid who was super hyperactive. He kept walking back and forth. I can't see. So he kept kicking me in the goddamn knees, trying to get past me. It was awful. If he wasn't 13, I swear I would have pitched him and kicked him in his ass. There was another guy. He was permanently just like a drunk dude. I feel like every white dude with a lineup had a black girlfriend in Ford Field on that night, And he kept walking back and forth. And I said to myself, this is why I don't really do concerts and stuff. The constant walking back and forth is so fucking annoying. And then because it's so many people, you're constantly having your view obstructed as people stand up, sit down, stand up, hold signs, hold their phone. People going back and forth to the bathroom, going back and forth to buying beers. It's very distracting. Also, in the section that I was in, there was the big screens up there. But part of the screen was obstructed with the lighting rig. So the screen behind us, you can see everything. But who the hell wants to turn around and watch a screen behind you when the ring is in front of you? And there's a screen up there also, but it's a slightly obstructed screen. So that was kind of frustrating. Overall, though, sharing the energy with so many other people made it fun. But it was small things the stuff that I usually hate about concerts and going to wrestling shows anyway. The amount of other people who insist on being in your way and being inconsiderate was frustrating. But overall, it was a really great experience. It was a great night. Had a lot of fun. Just wish that they had shortened that main event a little bit. But what did you guys think of the show Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.